Take a slow, full breath in and let it fall gently out. Let everything fall away. The noise, the effort, even the thought of becoming. You are already here. You have entered the inner chamber, the place behind the veil. This is the dwelling of the holy. Here, no words are required. Here, Spirit is the breath between your breaths, the pulse beneath every heartbeat. Welcome, beloved ones, to From the Garden Sacred Talks. You are not alone in this remembering. There is a presence here with you, breathing through the quiet between thoughts, moving through your being like wind through a veil, listening for the sound of your returning. Today, we enter the most holy place, the dwelling of Spirit, the space beyond striving and form. Here, your truest self is not something to find. It is something to remember. This is not a place of doctrine or debate. It is the chamber of direct knowing, where Spirit dwells within you, and the veil that once separated humanity from divine is now a gentle invitation to enter. Breathe. The journey has led you through body and mind. Now you step beyond the veil into the stillness of spirit. The spirit world is not distant or above. It is within and beneath everything. It is the origin and the essence. It is not bound by time or identity. It is the eternal now. In this world, the self is remembered not as a person, but as sacred presence. Spirit is not something you reach. It's something you uncover. The first time I truly felt the presence of divine spirit, the Holy Spirit, I was just learning how to sit in stillness. I remember being at home, sensing an urge to meditate and listen to worship music. Soon after, I felt a feminine presence, gentle yet powerful. In my mind's eye, I saw beautiful feet and the train of a white dress coming up the stairs to my door. Now, I was a bit confused because I didn't know what this presence was. It couldn't be Holy Spirit because all my life I had been taught or led to believe that Holy Spirit was a he. So I should be feeling a masculine presence. But in my innocence and confusion, I panicked. I ran literally out of the house, heart racing with both awe but mainly fear. So I left early to pick up my daughters from school. On the way to pick them up, my sister called and said, "Prepare yourself. Holy Spirit is coming to visit." It was then that everything just seemed funny. So I laughed and I explained to her what happened. And I said, "I think I missed it." That moment marked something deep in me, a longing to see Spirit, but not just see her, to dwell with her. to be unafraid of the holy presence that wanted to make my home her dwelling place. So I prayed, please give me another chance. And Spirit did. And the next time I was ready. Now, Spirit will always return to the open heart, even the one that ran away. In the tabernacle, the Holy of Holies was the most sacred space. Only the high priest could enter beyond the veil, and he could only do that once a year. Now, inside stood the Ark of the Covenant, holding the stone tablets, which were the law, the manna, which was hidden food from heaven, and Aaron's rod, the budding staff. Now, these three items had symbolic meaning. The stone tablets meant divine order or sacred alignment. The manna represented eternal provision or sustenance from beyond. Aaron's rod, that budding staff, meant living authority, spirit anointed life. This chamber speaks to our spirit, that part of us that knows before knowing, trusts without proof, lives beyond form, and belongs wholly to the beloved. See, in the Holy of Holies, nothing needs to be said. You just are. In the Old Testament, like I said, the high priest could only enter the Holy of Holies once a year and only after elaborate purification. If he entered unclean or presumptuously, he risked death. Not as punishment, but because the weight of divine presence was too great for what was not aligned. This was not a warning meant to terrify, but a sacred truth meant to protect. Spirit's presence is holy, not harmful, but what is misaligned cannot bear that much light without first being purified. And so, even now, Spirit asks us to enter in reverence, to cleanse our hearts, release pride, and surrender control before stepping beyond the veil. Because what Spirit longs to give is not mere experience, it is transformation. I remember another night when Spirit asked if I was ready to enter my own Holy of Holies. I was at a Wednesday night worship service, deep in song, when suddenly I became aware of Jesus standing beside me, and Holy Spirit was there too. The atmosphere was peaceful, almost glowing. Then Jesus asked, "Are you ready to meet the Father?" I said yes without even thinking about it. Then Spirit asked, "Are you sure?" Again, without even thinking about it, I said yes. Then Jesus looked at me with such tenderness and asked once more, "Are you sure?" Now, in that moment, my mind froze. I had realized that I didn't even really know who the Father was. See, all my life, I had pictured him as some distant old man with white hair and a white suit, sitting high above the world and looking low. I didn't see him as a loving presence who desired closeness. I didn't see him as the father that wanted to have this beautiful relationship with his subjects. So panic rose up. I felt the distance between what I believed and what my soul had longed to experience. At that moment, I realized I wasn't ready. And just like that, very gently, that vision faded away. See, that night, Spirit wasn't rejecting me, she was protecting me. Like the high priest before the veil, I was being invited to purify, to align, to remember who God really is. After I left my first church, I was still wounded, but I longed for spiritual community. I found another church, thinking perhaps this time it would be safe. I thought maybe this pastor could help me walk toward my own Holy of Holies. But I gave away the key to my inner courts too soon. This pastor was immature, both spiritually and emotionally. He gossiped about my prior deliverance sessions, spoke of my pain as if it were entertainment, and began using the pulpit as a weapon of subtle humiliation. Then, one night, during a prophetic moment that happened after church service, I saw Jesus, not in a sermon, but in a young woman that stood before me. As she prophesied, she grew taller in my mind's eye, morphing into Jesus until I could only see the hem of his garment. I knew I was the woman with the blood issue. I reached forward, walking to the front of the church, desperate to touch the presence of Christ, desperate to be healed, not just from tormenting thoughts, but from the shame of being misunderstood by those who claimed to love me. But the hug lasted 1 second too long, and in a flash, the pastor leapt up and cried out, "That's that spirit." Like clockwork, I hit the ground. I hadn't asked for another deliverance, but it didn't matter. I was getting one anyway. Children gathered, adults formed a circle. I was on display, a public spectacle of someone else's idea of holiness. But as I lay there, I saw something deeper. In my mind, there was a dark wall, and behind it, a presence that I recognized as Leviathan. I demanded that it reveal itself, but it didn't. I later learned that Leviathan wasn't a demon at all. It was the veil of my false self. The wall was the boundary protecting my Holy of Holies. Spirit wasn't withholding revelation. She was protecting me from entering unprepared. See, even when others misused their power, Spirit was still keeping me safe, guarding the inner sanctuary until I was truly ready to dwell there. The veil was not meant to keep you out, but to draw you in. When we enter unprepared, what dies is not our essence, it's our pretense. It's the false self that cannot survive the truth of who we really are. Unpreparedness looks like pride, dishonor, or hypocrisy, the Leviathan spirit of twisted pride and self deception. It looks like living out of alignment with the truth of our being, pretending, manipulating, taking what is not ours, or leading others into the same illusion. That kind of living creates chaos, paranoia, and confusion because our inner temple becomes divided against itself. I remember after those early deliverance sessions, and that pastor who had told me, whatever door you opened, you need to close. See, at that time, I was blaming them. They had prayed over me. Then Pandora's box opened, and there was nothing that I had done to open any doors or to put me in the situation I was in. But in time, I began to understand exactly what doors I had opened that needed to be closed. They weren't portals to demons, they were fractures of integrity. Lies I told myself and others, masks I wore, manipulations I justified, moments I bragged about my own shadow. And the list goes on. I was a thief. I was the liar, the manipulator, the fraud. And Leviathan stood behind that dark wall because I wasn't ready to face that truth. The wall was mercy. Spirit was saying, not yet. You must be honest first. When I finally began to face those parts of myself, the liar, the cheat, the proud one, something did die. And what rose in its place was not shame, but freedom. That is the death that the unprepared face in the presence of the holy, the death of illusion, the unraveling of self deceit, the end of everything that cannot exist in pure light. See, to enter the holy, unprepared, is to meet the truth. And the truth will not let a lie survive. The tabernacle is not a building, it is a map. It shows the journey from body to mind, mind to spirit. And yet, spirit was never absent, only covered, only forgotten. To live from spirit is to live from wholeness. To remember that your inner ark still holds divine law, hidden manna, and the budding rod of your own anointed life. See, ask yourself, what do I know without needing to understand? Where do I feel most at home, even when alone? What happens when I stop striving to be spiritual and simply am? Spirit is not something I have. Spirit is what I am. Now, I would like to leave you with these reflective prompts that you can meditate over during the week until we meet again. When have you felt Spirit's nearness as both awe and fear? Where has Spirit protected you from entering too soon? What false walls might actually be veils protecting sacred spaces within you? How has misunderstanding from others refined your discernment of true guidance? What does your ark hold? What treasures of truth have sustained you through your own wilderness? This closing reflection will help you enter the most holy place. Close your eyes. See the outer court fade. The inner court falls silent. Step beyond the veil. Feel the present that knows you before your name. Here is the ark, the covenant, the truth. Whisper to yourself, I dwell in the Holy of Holies. I am spirit. I am home. Sit in this knowing for a few breaths. until the silence becomes your sanctuary.
Beloved one, may you enter your inner sanctuary in reverence, not rushing, not reaching, only remembering. May every false image of God dissolve until only love remains. May the weight of presence rest gently upon you, not as a burden, but as belonging. And may you walk in the world as one who carries the Holy of Holies within. You are spirit. You are home. You are whole.